Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Today we are going to review for the exam. As you guys should know, your exam is on Thursday and the review is out. I emailed you to tell you to look up the review. So today we are going to basically review the material. If you have questions, put them on chat. My goal is to review exponential very well because it's on your exam for sure. And I would like to work more with you on exponential. And then I'll take up any other questions you guys have. So if you have anything specific, put it on chat. Otherwise, I'll get started myself. Any questions? All right. So, Amber, okay, but you have to tell me what, Amber? This is from where? The book, the review?
The review.
The review, 2, BC, 5, 8, and 10. Okay, we keep them, I keep them in my mind, and I will go over them. Okay, so I'll hold on to those. Okay. Okay. All right, thanks, guys. So I'll keep them in my mind. But before I do that, there is let me check one thing. 5F, 2ABC, and 8. Okay, and that. All right. Okay. So before I get started, I will comment about the quiz because, you know, what's in the quiz will be also on the exam in a way or another, and where your mistakes really came. So where you guys had difficulties, not difficulties, you did wrong. So f of minus 2, of course, nobody had any issue with that. It is equal to 5. Okay, f inverse of minus 2, you guys had kind of issues with that. So I will remind you what it is. Finding the f inverse of minus 2, it means find the x value. That's really what it means, such that f of x equal to minus 2. Okay, you have to find the input that gives you an output of minus 2. So if I put that's minus 2, that's the output. F inverse, it means you are finding the input. That's really what the F inverse is about. So according to this, if this is minus 2, so the F inverse is the input, is the x value, which is equal to 2. So please, for those who got it wrong, make sure you understand. Again, f inverse of 0, it means I'm finding the input of f that gives me an output of 0. So again, if we're gonna find the x value, it gives me an output of 0. F of x equal to 0. And then I go back to my graph. Which input give me an output of 0? It's this one right here. So f inverse of 0 is equal to 1. All right, for those who messed it up, please make sure you don't again. Now let f of x be equal to x cubed minus 5. Find a formula. This was not bad, so I will go over it quickly. So the idea is that we need to find x. So we set this equal to t, because finding f inverse of t means finding the x value such that f of x equal to t. Means I want to find the x that gives me t. So basically we have to solve for x. So the idea is we need to first isolate x. So our first step would be adding the 5. Totally isolated, totally isolated. So we have to divide by 2 because I'm isolating the x. So I divide by 2. Now I need to solve for x, and here some student did wrong. How did it wrong? So if on the side, if x cubed, for example, is equal to 2, the x is the cubic root of 2. Some student put x equal 2 to the power 3. That's not correct. Okay, so x cubed equal to 2, it means x is the cubic root of this. So now what is f inverse of t? So f inverse of t would be equal to cubic root of t plus 5 over 2. It means if I know the output, this formula will give me the input. Now comments here, some comments about what you guys wrote. So some of you wrote the following. F inverse of t equal cubic root of x plus 5 over 2. That's wrong. If you use t as the name of the variable, you have to use it across the board. So those who wrote x, I corrected them. You have to write t. You cannot write x because t is the name you give to the variable. If you want to write x, it's correct, but then that's what you should write. F inverse of x is cubic root of x plus 5 over 2. So if you want to write x, you have to write x here. If you write t, this should be t. If you write x, this should be x. So we have the same name of the variable. Okay, questions please as I am talking. All right, now page 3. Page 3 is a typical problem, very, very typical. This is a quadratic, and the question is find the vertex. Now, any answer that you guys pick up from the internet or from, what else? You know, from calculator, computers, I won't accept it. All right, you have to show all your work. And I gave you the very easy formula for the vertex. It's just nothing more than minus b over 2a. Okay, that's how I would like you to know it, which is going to be equal to minus 5. That's the x coordinate. Now the y coordinate, you just evaluate the function at minus 5. And now here some of you had a mistake. When you plug in x here, you get the quantity minus 5 minus 12. But the quantity minus 5 squared is positive 25. Some of you got it the minus, which is not correct. Minus 50 minus 12, and you do the math, you get minus 37. So the vertex is minus 5 minus 37. Okay, that's the part I wanted you to memorize. Now the zeros, this one I won't do because most of you got it right. Equals 0, and here you had to use the quadratic. So a lot of you got it correct, so I will not redo it. Okay, and then you estimate it. The graph you guys messed up. Mark on the graph the vertex, the zeros, and the vertical intercept. So the graph is a parabola. The A is 1. The A is 1, which is positive. It means that's a parabola going up. The vertex. What is the vertex? Minus 5 is the x coordinate. Minus 37, the y coordinate. That's the vertex. So it's going to go like this. The zeros. Now, a lot of you estimated those values. If my memory is right, you got minus 11 point something and 1 point something. So we can do that. So these are the zeros, 1 point something and minus 11. The parabola is going to go like this. Minus 11 right there. All right. Then the intercept. So this is the vertex. This is the vertex. Now the intercept. A lot of you couldn't get that. The vertical intercept means when the graph hits the y-axis. Here, to find it, you just plug in 0 into the equation. And the equation was x squared into the formula. So you plug in 0, you get minus 12. It means this point here, that's the vertical intercept. Okay, so that's the kind of picture I want to find. D. Again, a lot of you messed up with D. And should not be, is not hard. What value of D? F of D is minus 12. It means I need to set up this equal minus 12 and solve for D. Okay, now how do we solve? This is a quadratic. To solve, I need to make one side totally 0, absolutely 0. To do that, I need to add 12 to both sides, plus 12, plus 12. And then I will end up this equal to 0. Now I need to solve this quadratic. How do we solve? Either we factor or quadratic equation if you don't know how to factor. Now, can I factor this expression? Can I factor this expression? Yes or no? Mrs. said, why no? Why no? Quadratic is correct, but can I factor? Watch carefully. What's d squared? It's basically d times d plus 10d equal to 0. So I can actually factor the d. And I will be left, if I factor the d, means I will left with the d here plus 10 equal to 0. So actually I can factor this. Using quadratic is absolutely correct. There is no problems with it. But this one, you know, we actually can factor it. So then I will get d equal to 0 equal to 0. It means d equal minus 10. And these are the values of d. All right. So what you guys had trouble with is c. You did not graph it well. And you had trouble with d. And that's really how we do that. Okay. All right. So let's take care of the quiz. Now, I see a lot of your questions, definitely. But for my own peace of mind, I want to make sure you guys have exponential totally under control before I move on. So exponential, and then I'll take the other question. So we studied it last time. We did a lot of problems, but I want all of you now to do them with me. Make sure you guys get it. Exponential, so let us remember that what the formula is always a times a b to the power x. Okay, what did we call a? Anybody remember? If you guys answer quickly, I can answer every question you have. If you don't,
is a the initial value?
Yeah, what does it mean, initial value? Just make sense out of it.
Like your starting value.
Which means the value for which value of x? That's what I want. 0. Initial value, it means the value for x equal to 0. So if I plug in 0 in here, it's a, b to the 0, b to the 0 is 1. So a is f of 0, because let us notice here. F of 0 is a. I plug in 0 for x. Anything to the power 0 is 1. That's a. What did we call b quickly? What did we call b? We call b growth factor. All right, that's what we call b. Now, how do they arise? And that's what we talk. Yeah, how do they arise? How exponential function, why do we care about them? I mean, how exponential function arise. I will just this time simplify. All right, if a function f, suppose you have a function, it can be population, it could be money in the bank, a lot of things. Suppose it increases or decreases at the same percent rate. Percent rate. It means it increased by 5%. It increased by 6% every year. It means, okay, let us say, like I did the salary last time. Somebody making 40,000. After 1 year, he got 6% raise. Okay, so he's making more. The year after, he got 6% of his new income, and so on and so forth. That's the scenario. Then what's the formula? In this case, it's a times b to the t. A is always f of 0. B is equal to 1 plus the growth rate. That's what my B is. And the growth rate, it means this percent rate. That's the growth rate. It's the percent. So growth rate is the percent rate or percent rate. It's positive if F is increasing and the growth rate we have a negative growth, it's negative if f of t is actually decreasing, losing value. So this is a summary of what we did. Okay, so now I'm going to go through a problem, two problems with exponential before I pick up your questions. So I'm going to pick them up from the review. I don't know if you guys asked me this question or not. I really don't know. I'm going to do number 12 and number 11, whether you asked or not, because I want to make sure you can do those. And then I proceed to your question. So number 12 is the following. A population has size 5,000 at time t equal to 0. So we have a city, and that's the population. And let P of t be the population in the year t. So the population is changing with time. Find a formula for the population in each of the following scenarios. The population decreases by 8% per year. We need a formula. So question number, so this is number 12 in your review. Okay, so initial population, so at t equal to 0, population is 5,000. Now A, population decreases by 8% every year. Okay, question is, find a formula for P of t. Okay, I give you a minute to do it, and I see what's going on. See how what you guys can do. You should have reviewed this. So read every word. It decreases by 8% per year. Find a formula for P of t. So the idea is P of t has this form, because by 8%. So you need A and you need B. All right, the initial value is the population at 0. Population at 0 is 5,000. That's always A. And that's a multiplication here. That's product. You're multiplying. What's B? What's B? So the population decreases by 8% per year. Every year we lose 8% of the population. So what's going to be the B? Right. So let me remind you. No, 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 no. No, the answers are not correct. Now the answers are getting better. So let us remember what the B is. The population decreased by 8%. So B is 1 plus the growth rate. Okay, that's what B is. It's not the growth rate. It's 1 plus the growth. What do you mean by the growth rate? The growth rate, it means the percent by which the population is changing. So the growth rate here is the population is decreasing. It means we have a negative growth. It decreased by 8%. So the growth rate is the percent by which the population is decreasing. It means minus 0.8. I mean, it means minus 8 over 100. That's 8%, which is minus 0.08. All right, that's the growth rate. It means that's the growth. The growth factor is going to be, the growth factor is going to be 1 minus 0.08. And now you just have to pick up your calculator. Okay, so 1 minus 0.08, we're going to give me 0.92. So it means that the population is the population is 5,000 times 0.92 to the power t. So that's really what the growth factor is. The growth factor, it means the population lose 8%. That's by every year. It means what's left is 92%. So the growth factor is what's left from the population after it loses the 8%. 92% is left. And that's really what the growth factor is. It means every year is 92% of the year before. Every year is 92% of the year before. Okay. All right. So B, I will do B because the answers were not actually good. So let me do B. And the population, so that's, I'm still number 12 from your review, decreases by 0.15% per year. And the question again, find a formula. And please do it so you know if you're doing it correct or not. Okay, initial is always. So the population here is exponential. It means it has the form a constant times b to the t. A is always what we're starting with is 5,000. B, what we call the growth factor, equal, and that's up to you to compute it. It's not the 0.15%. That's not the growth factor. Basically, it's left over. It's left over. If you lose 0.15, how much is left over? All right, 0.0, okay. So that's 1 plus the growth rate. So let us evaluate the growth rate now. It decreases, means I have a negative growth. That's where my negative is. By how much? 0.15%. That's what, 0.15%. Now, if we pick up our calculator and we evaluate 0.15%, so it's going to give me minus 0.0015. Okay, so it means every year we're losing 0.15. The growth factor is going to be the 1 minus 0.0015. And then I just take away the minus 1. And I'm left with 0.9985. Okay, so the population, the formula for the population is the initial value times 0.9985 to the power t. So now I know the formula for any time. So if I want the population after 2 years, I know what's the population after 2 years, after 5 years, after 15 years. I have an absolute formula for the population. Now let me look at C. Actually, I'm going to do D and then move on. Population increases. So we have a positive growth by 0.3% per year. It increases by 0.3%. The initial is always 5,000, increased by 0.3. Give me a formula. And please, I want more than one to give me a formula, or I will start choosing. Okay, put your answer on chat. Okay, anybody else? I want more than one answer. Okay, all right, so that's another one more. So I have two answers. That's the percent growth rate, 0.3, so be very careful, it's 0.3%. So I'm doing D, not C. All right. So what's the population? Again, it's 5,000 times B to the power T. Right. What is the B? The B is 1 plus the growth rate, which could be positive or negative depending on growth or decay. But here we're increasing. It means the growth rate is positive. By how much? By 0.3%. So 0.3%, it means 0.3 divided by 100. So 0.3 divided by 100 is 0.003. So be very careful when we use those. So it's going to give me 1 plus 0.003. It means this is 1.003. So the population is finally 5,000, 1.03 to the power T. So that's the growth factor. So it's 1.3%. It's 1.3%. That's really how it works. All right. Questions? I'm asking all the questions. So one last part that I also would like to emphasize is the problems along number 11. So number 11. My question is the following. For each of the exponential function below, find the initial value, means what's happened at 0, the growth factor, it's the B, and the growth rate. Okay, so I'm going to write a function, f of x equal, it's 500 times 1.4 to the power x. Question is, initial value, which is, when we say initial, it means it says 0. That's what initial is. Growth factor, and finally, the percent growth rate. It means by percent how much is growing per year. All right. Okay, initial value. I guess I have to start picking soon. You guys are not talking a lot. Initial value. All right, Cindy, and f of 0 is 500. Growth factor. What's the growth factor? That's the B in the formula. No. The growth factor is the B. That's the growth factor. It's the 1.4. It's the B. The growth factor is the B. Now, what's the growth rate? It means by what percent it is increasing every unit of time. Growth rate. So here we remember the relationship. If I have the growth factor, how can I find the growth rate? Always remember this relationship. The growth factor is 1 plus the growth rate. Okay, so basically the growth rate is how far is 1.4 from 1? How far is 1.4 from 100%? Right, so what's the growth rate? Now let us solve for it. This is the 1.4 equal to 1 plus the growth rate. But to find the growth rate, I need to take away 1. So subtract 1. I will get growth rate equal 1.4 minus 1. It means 0.4. Okay. So the growth rate in this case is 0.4 or 40%. All right, so the growth rate is how far is my growth factor far away from 1. So this is represent a quantity which is start at 500 and increasing by 40% every unit of time. So after 1 year, It increased by 40%. It means its value is 140% of what it was. Every year it increased by 40%. Okay, that will, I'll do
I
another.
have a quick question.
Yes, I'm listening.
So why did you subtract it?
Because the growth factor is 1 plus the growth rate. That's the relationship between them. So I need the growth rate. How can I get it? Suppose I give you the following problem. 1.4 equal 1 plus x. Find x. What would you do?
Subtract 1.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
This is my unknown. I want to find it. So I'm going to take 1 away.
Okay.
I'm going to take 1 away. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's do another one. See if this makes sense to you as well. So I'm still number, the same problem, number 11. And the same type of question. I have f of x equal 300 times 0.9 to the x. Okay. Please, each one of you try to do it, because that's how, if you do mistakes, you know what is it you're doing wrong. Again, what's the initial value, which is, I think all of us should know. What's the growth factor? And the growth rate means the growth rate is by what percent is it changing per unit. Okay. So initial value, growth factor, growth rate. Okay. So initial value, everybody telling me is 300. That's correct, because it's the value at 0, which is 300. The growth factor is your B. It's this one here. This is 0.9. The growth rate is basically how far is 0.9 from 1. That's really what it is, how far it is from 1. But to evaluate it, we say, so if I know the growth factor, how do I know the growth rate? I say, all right, growth factor, I'm going to repeat what I did a minute ago. It's 1 plus growth rate. That's the relationship. My growth factor is 0.9. And what I want is this one. So it's 1 plus the growth rate. Now I take away 1. Subtract 1, exactly like what I did before. Exactly what I did before, verbatim. That's what I want. I take away 1, I get 0.9 minus 1. That's the growth rate. It means minus 0.1 or minus 10%. So the growth rate here is minus 10%. So this is minus 0.1 or minus 10%. So what it means to you is the following. If you have a population or anything, initially 300, it loses 10% of its value every year. The question is, how much do you have after X years? How much do you have? If it loses 10% every year, it means it keeps 90%. That's the growth factor. And that will be the formulation. So this is really represent a function which is decreasing at the rate of 10%. That's really what the growth factor is about. I will finalize with another one. And do the math. So I'll finalize with this. F of x equal, and it's 200 times 0.813 to the x. Again, initial value and everything. And this time I'm going to pick one student, so be ready. Initial value, growth factor, and finally growth rate. And I should do it myself because I don't know what the answer is. Let me pick one student. Cameron, are you with me? Cameron Boyd. Okay, if the student is not there, I move on as usual. Fritz, are you with me? Kyle Fritz.
Yeah, I'm just working on it now. I'm kind of slow.
Okay. What's the initial value?
Initial value is 200.
Okay. What's the growth factor?
0.813.
And what's the growth rate?
Wait,
How do we find it?
it's the growth factor is it's 1 plus growth rate minus 1. So it would be, wouldn't it be 0.813 minus 1? That would
Right.
be like, where's my
Right. So that's the growth rate. That's the relationship. So the growth rate is going to be 0.813 minus 1. Okay, which is
I get negative 0.187.
187. That's the growth rate. So it's negative 0.187.
Yes.
Which is how much in percent?
Wouldn't be theoretically, wouldn't that be like 0 because you kind of have a negative?
It's minus 18.7%. Okay?
Okay.
So what
Okay.
does this mean? It means every unit of time, every year, we lose 18.7%. So that's a negative growth. What's a negative growth is? It means decrease by. The negative tells me you have a negative growth rate. So you don't have a positive growth, you have a negative growth by 18.7. It means every unit of time, we lose 18.7% of whatever quantity we're measuring. So if we lose 18.7, it means we keep 81.3 of it. Right? The last question is, if you have an exponential function, so suppose I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to take, for example, f of x equal 200, 1.02 to the power x. Suppose I take those two. So I'll rewrite them. I'm going to ask you a question. So I'll rewrite them to compare and contrast a little bit. Suppose this is 0.813, and this is 200, 1.02 to the power x. Or, yeah, it doesn't matter. Right. In this case and those cases, how can we, just by looking at it, know whether we have a growth or decay? What will tell me whether this function increasing or decreasing? What do you think is going to be the indicator? You may not know the answer, but I just want to ask you to see if you guys have any intuition.
Isn't it if there's like a negative or positive sign?
What do you mean?
Like if there was like a negative in front of them, wouldn't they be decreasing?
There is no negative whatsoever in this problem. What's going to really tell us is the B. This is going to be our guide in the following sense. Remember that the B is 1 plus the growth rate. Okay, which could be positive or negative, depending whether, now it's not greater or lesser, whether we're increasing or decreasing. So if the growth rate is positive, then the B is 1 plus something. It's going to be bigger than 1. If the growth rate is negative, it means I'm taking away something from the 1%. B would be less than 1. So what's actually going to tell us whether it's increase or decrease, it's the B. If the B is bigger than 1, it means we're growing by 2%. That's a growth. If B is less than 1, it means we are losing something. Here, the growth rate is going to be negative. So B bigger than 1, we have a growth. B less than 1, we have decay. Because here we're adding something, it's 1 plus 0.02, and this we're taking away something. We're taking D1 minus 187. So that's really what's going to guide us whether it's a growth or decay. It's really the B in here. Right. So this is my review for exponential. Your job is to finish the review. And then I go back now to your questions and I go through them one by one. Okay. So I'm backing up here. I start with Amber, number 2, BC. Okay. So let me see what number 2 is about. Oh. Okay, let me leave this for later on because it's going to take some time. I will pick up your other questions and then I will come back to that. So number 5, I promise to come back to that. I'm not really going to ignore it. So number 5, part D. Okay, number 5, part D. Okay, so this is a typical question that you will have on your exam. There is no question asked. So what it is, let us remember. What's G? So to be able to do this problem, we need to remember the definition. What's G composed with F? It's G of f of x. As long as you remember this definition, you're safe. All right, so now let us remember that. So I'm going to do number 5, part D. Number 5. Okay, so we have f of x equal 1 over x minus 2, and g of x is 2x plus 3. Okay, so G composed with f of x. You start with x, you evaluate f of x, that's your input, and then you evaluate g of f of x. So please remember the definition as you are reviewing. And now let's see this is equal to what? It means g of f of x is 2x plus 3. And now I have to ask myself, what does g do? Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's g of 1 over x minus 2. This is what f of x is. But now what does g do? G is 2 times what you input plus 3. Okay, so let us repeat. What's g composed with f? It means g of f of x. It means g of 1 over x minus 2. But what does g do? It takes 2 times what you give it. So if you give it 1 over x minus 2, it's 2 times this plus 3. Okay, so that's really it. Now, a little bit of the algebra. What can we do algebraically? 2 times 1 over x minus 2 is 2 over x minus 2 plus 3. Now, if I ask you to write it as one fraction, means we have to find a common denominator. So this would be plus 3 times x minus 2 over x minus 2, because you can look at this as 3 over 1. So the common denominator is going to be x minus 2. And the goal of common denominator is basically to combine the numerator. And now the rest would be is a little simpler. Over x minus 2, which is going to give me 3x, 2 minus 6, minus 4 over x minus 2, and of the problem. All right, question before I move on. Okay, so review the composition. Once we know the definition, the composition will not be hard, but we have to know the definition exactly. Now we move to number 8.
I have a real quick question.
Yes.
Will we be able to simplify that further?
No. How?
I was gonna say just like through the x and the minus 2. So like
I don't know, with mine, I ended up taking or dividing the -2 from the 4
Nothing,
and then dividing
nothing.
it.
The only thing we can simplify if I had factors, if I can factor things out. But here, x minus 2, I cannot factor anything out. And 3x minus 4. So this is the answer. Nothing could be done about it, period. Absolutely nothing.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, no problem. Now let me look at number 8. Okay. Now,
Before you go to 8, I think someone said 5F, so you didn't have to bounce back.
what did I do? 5F. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Pay attention. All right. So 5F. F composed with f of t. All right. It's equal to f of t. All right. What does f of t do? F of t is 1 over t minus 2. That's what f does. I stop. And I'm going to put f of x in front of me. So that's what f of does. Okay. Now I need f of 1 over t minus 2. It means whenever here I have an input, I have to substitute it by t. So it's going to give me 1 over x minus 2. T minus 2 minus 2. I stop right there. Before I go any further, any question? Any questions about that? All right, now I need to simplify. It looks messy, I know that, but we want to simplify. The best way to simplify it is first take the denominator. This is my denominator, and find a common denominator. So the piece right here will become 1 over t minus 2, because this is 1, the common denominator is t minus 2. So I need to multiply this by t minus 2, divide by t minus 2. So finally, this will be equal to, I still have my 1. As I said, the goal of the common denominator is to combine the numerator. So I will have 1 minus 2 times the quantity 2 minus 2. As you realize, I'm very careful with my parentheses. So this is going to give me 1 over. This is a t minus 2. Now if I evaluate this expression right there, I'm going to evaluate it on the side. It's 1 minus 2t minus minus plus 4. It means 5 minus 2t. Okay, so I evaluate on the side, so I don't have to keep writing the whole fraction. And this will give me 5 minus 2t. Finally, I have one fraction divided by another. And let us remember the root of fraction. It's 1 times the reciprocal of that. So the answer would be t minus 2 over 5 minus 2t. End of the problem. Okay, any more 5s? No. Very good. Now 7. 7D. Before I move 8, I'm trying to be in order. 7D. The graph of a function is given below. Question is, find f inverse of 1. Okay, it means we need to find the x such that f of x equal to 1. Okay, so it's now the inverse. So this is my 1 here. What's the x that gives me 1? I go back, I go down here. All right, now if you guys have the graph, this is minus 1, this is minus 2. So this should be 0.25 because this is 3 pieces, minus 0.25, minus 0.5. So this should be minus 1, minus 1.25, minus 1.5, and this should be minus 1.75. Question?
I had a question with the one on the y-axis. I put 0.5 because it didn't line up when I filled out my graph.
But this is divided into 4 pieces, right?
No, on the y-axis, not the x-axis.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And I am absolutely wrong. Thank you very, very, very much. I'm sorry. I'm allowed mistakes. You're not. Thank you very, very, very much. That's the one. You're absolutely correct. I'm wrong. Thanks a lot. So it's going to be minus 1.5. Thanks a lot for whoever corrected me. Okay. All right. Now we look at number 8. So this way. Right. Number 8 is to find a formula. This is really where the algebra kicks in. So they want number E and number F. All right. So that's where the algebra kicks in. So I have the following function, f of x equal, so we're doing number 8 and E, right? Yeah. So we have f of x equal 2 over 3x plus 2. And the question is, we need to find a formula for f inverse of t. So again, here I have the input. I need to find, I have the output is t. I need to find the input. So we're going to set equal to t and solve for x. Okay. All right, you guys help me out. How can I do that? So somehow I need to isolate x. What do you think I'm going to do?
Do you multiply by the reciprocal in the denominator?
Oh, you confuse me. What do you mean reciprocal? I think you
Like
maybe
not when, like in the denominator.
What do you want to multiply by?
By the 3x plus 2.
Exactly. You multiply by 3x plus 2. Both sides. Okay. And the goal is those will simplify and I will have 2 equal. Okay, now I have to multiply. Okay, multiply 3tx plus 2t. Okay, my goal is to solve for x. So we need to isolate x. At this stage, it should not be hard to isolate x. What do you want me to do very quickly? How should I isolate x? Back to you.
Minus the 2t.
Exactly. Subtract 2t. I will have 2 minus 2t equal 3t times x. And then what should I do quickly? Remember, I'm after the x. What would you do?
Divide by 3t.
Divide by 3t. That will get x equal 2 minus 2t divided by 3t. So the formula would be f inverse of t over 3t. Okay? Questions, I move on. All right. So there is one more. I'm going to back up and see which one you guys still have.
Could you go back for 1 second?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Now, another one is F. So those problems are algebraic in nature, and that's why I think they are good because of their algebraic nature. So this is a function f of x equal 1 over the cubic root of x plus 3. Okay. And the question is, you're going to find a formula of f inverse. It means we're going to set this equal to t, and somehow we need to solve for x. So somehow we have to get x some way. All right, how do you guys expect me to do this problem? So I have a cubic root here, And I need to get basically x out of this cubic root. I mean, I really want to do something.
Do you have to cubic, like, multiply the bottom by the square root of, by the power of 3, and then the t multiplied by the power of 3?
It means
get the
we're going to raise, okay,
Cubic root out?
right, raise both to the power t. Raise, sorry, to the power 3. All right, it means I'm going to say this to the power 3 equal t to the power 3. I think that's what you meant, I'm assuming. Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't know how to put it.
Yeah,
in.
raised to the power 3. Now the benefit is that this is going to give me 1 over x plus 3. Because if you take 1 to the power 3, because this is going to become 1 to the power 3 over the cubic root to the power 3. That's really what it becomes. Now the cubic to the power 3 gives me equal t to the power 3. Okay, now I need to isolate x. I need to isolate x. So we will do exactly what we did before. We multiply by x plus 3. Both sides. To isolate my x, I will have x plus 3 times 1 over x plus 3 equal t to the power 3 times x plus 3. And now this and this simplify. I have 1 equal. Now I have to distribute. The only way to get x out is to distribute first. I will have t to the power 3 times x plus 3 times t to the power 3. I need to isolate my x. I'm going to take away this term. It's x times t to the power 3. Isolate my x, divide by t3. So I will have x equal 1 minus that over t to the power 3. So again, it's an algebra problem. It's absolutely an algebra problem. And as I said several times, that's the reason I like those problems. It's just to strengthen us algebraically. Okay, can I move on? Can I move on, yes or no?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still writing.
Okay. Okay, so now we're gonna move to number, let's see, there is 10 and 16, all right?
I'm done writing now.
All
Thank
right,
you.
sure. All right, so let's look at number 10. It's a typical scenario, number 10, but expect maybe something along those lines, we will see. So the height of an object, so I will read it with you. The height of an object above the ground, t seconds after it has been thrown upward, is given by this function. So all your Moodle was basically around this problem. So you take an object, because they come up a lot in physics. You take an object and you throw it, and this function tells you at every time how high it was. So question A. So I will write this down. So f of t is minus 16t squared plus 50t plus 200. Okay, so that's the object. So question number 1 is, how long after the object was thrown did it reach its maximum height? And what was, of course, that should read, the maximum height. So you take the object and you throw it. It reached a maximum height, and then it goes back and hit the ground. And this function tells you the height above it. So this is a quadratic function. So if we graph it, we're going to get something like that. The A is negative, so it's going to be parabola going down, and this should reflect the height. So we know that the height starts somewhere. The height is going to increase. It reaches a maximum, then the height will decrease till we hit the ground. So that's really the picture for what's really going on physically. And the question is, how long after the object was thrown did it reach its maximum height? What do you think I should go after? Back to you.
Do you use the minus b plus or minus the square root? Do you use that?
No. I read the question. If you look at the picture, they want to know when does the ball reach its highest point? Look at the picture. When? This is when it reaches highest point. So what do I need to find? What did we call this point of a parabola? We need to find the vertex. Okay, so that's the picture. When does it reach its maximum height? Okay, it's exactly at the vertex, not when f of t equal to 0. When f of t equal to 0, it means when it hits the ground. That's not what I'm interested in for the time being. I'm interested in when it hits its largest height or its maximum height. So what they want is exactly the vertex. So the time is, so we need the time, so we need the vertex. So part A, find the vertex. So read the problem, try to make sense out of it. So find the vertex. Now we know how to find the vertex. The x coordinate, which is t in this case, is the time, is minus b over 2a. Means minus b is 50, over 2a. Now a is minus 16. And time has to be positive. So when you get an answer, you have to make sure you get a positive answer. So this would give me minus 50 over 32. Okay, and if I simplify both by 2, I will get 25 over 16. Divide this by 2 and this by 2. All right, so when it hits, it means this here is 25 over 16, which is almost how many? A little bit over 1 second. So 25 over 16, it's almost 1 second and a half, 50 seconds. All right, so this is when it reached. So now it reached highest point at the vertex. Now question number 2, what is the maximum height? So this is when it reached it. That's the time. So this is almost 1.56 seconds. That's the unit, that's the time. Now, how much? What is the maximum height? So to find the maximum height, it's basically finding the y coordinate of the vertex. It means it's the value of the function at 25 over 16. That's the maximum height. So let us evaluate that. It's minus 16 times square over 16 plus 50 times 25 over 16 plus 200. Okay, and now I just plug this into my calculator and I get something, and that will give me the maximum height. So I don't know if any of you did it, or I have the answers on Brightspace. You guys get the answers. But is it understood? When does it reach its maximum height? I am after the vertex. Now B, I read it. Determine when the object hits the ground. When does the object hits the ground? It hits the ground. So hits the ground. When what happened? When its height above ground is 0. So it hits the ground when f of t equal to 0. Okay, so when I set f of t equal to 0, it means when I'm going to ask this question now. This is when does it hit the ground? It means when is the height 0. That's when I set f of t equal to 0. So here we're going to set equal to 0 and solve for t. Okay. And definitely here we have to use the quadratic formula. There is no way out. So we compute b squared minus 4ac first. And all this has to be done. So it's 50 squared. That's the b. Minus 4 times the a is minus 16. The c is 200. So I just basically at this stage, only a calculator can get me through this problem. So it's 50 squared plus 4 times 16 times 200. So I'm getting 15300. Okay, and now we find the time. And we know that there are two values because we're solving a quadratic, minus b plus the square root over 2a. 2 times minus 16. You compute that, and minus 50 minus the square root over 2 times minus 16, and you evaluate. One of them is going to be negative. So if you pick up your calculator, this will be negative, and for us, the time is positive, so this is not accepted, and whatever you get here will be the time. Okay? Question about number 10. Okay, the last thing we would like to review with you, which is you guys asked about a little bit of it, but I will, number 15 and 16, we will do as many as we can for that. Can I move on? Yes or no? All right, nobody answered me. Yes, I guess. So the last parts we're going to review is number 16 and number 15. So we will do both. Okay. So number 15, I've done last time, of course, a lot of that, but now make sure I want quick answers from you. First, rewrite the following so they do not contain negative or fractional exponent. Okay. And the only way you can answer those questions is to remember the basics, the definition. A to the minus n is 1 over a to the n. A to the 1 over n is the nth root. And a to the m over n is either the nth root of am or the nth root of a, the whole thing raised to the power n. Okay, so make sure you have those in front of you if you have questions along those lines in your test. All right, the first one quickly. Rewrite so there will be no negative or fractional exponent. How shall I rewrite this? It's exactly 1 over the 16 squared. All right, 16 to the power a half. How can I rewrite this? All right, okay, we're done with A. I know you can plug in 16 squared in your calculator, that's fine with me. I don't care about that. 16 to the power a half. How do you write this without fractional exponent? I don't want the answer, I want what it means. The square root of 16. So if I'm asking you those questions on the exam, that's what I want. If somebody write me 4, I will not give a grade. That's exactly my goal, to understand the notation, which is, of course, 4. We know that. 16 to the minus a half quickly.
One over 16 squared.
Absolutely. It's 1 over. Whenever you have a minus, it means you take the same thing and you put a plus, but in the denominator. Okay, which is going to give me 1 over the square root of 16, which is 1 over 4. Okay. Now, 1 over 4 to the minus 2. And this one I need a nice page because some math is in order. 1 over 4 to the minus 2. So I have a negative exponent in here. How can I rewrite this so I won't have negative exponent before we simplify it? Always remember what negative means.
Is it 1 over?
The same thing to the power 2. That's what it is. After that, I can simplify. It means 1 over This is square. Be careful, that's not a half. 1 over 4 square, it means 1 over 4 multiplied by 1 over 4. This is 1 over 16, which is 1 times 16 over 1, which is 16. Okay. All right. Another one I would like to do, make sure, it's not F, this is not F. This is just a question from my part, and then I do F. What does 81 to the 5/4 mean? What's the definition? M over N. What does this mean? Okay. It's the 4th root. This is the root of 81 to the power 5. Either you can put the 5 inside or you can put it outside. So it's either that or it doesn't matter. Both are exactly the same. Either that or that. Okay, that's really what I want. Now the rest is not hard. The 4th root of 81, I'm trying to give you easy numbers. It's just 3. That's 3 to the power 5. One more, and then I move on to 16 because I know I have a question there. What about 81 to the minus 5/4? What does this mean quickly? It's 1. That's a minus, so it's 1 over the 81 to the 5/4. Because I have a minus, it just go to the denominator and become a plus. That's what it is. So this is going to give me 1 over the 4th root of 81 to the power 5. Okay. So when I'm telling you rewrite, that's the kind of rewriting I'm expecting. And that's 1 over 3 to the power 5 that we can evaluate.
For these, do you want us to completely simplify or do you just want the rewritten version?
Actually, that's the one I care about.
Okay.
That's honestly what I care about, usually, all right? Because I wanted to know what the fractional exponent means. That's really my goal behind all those questions. All right, now I finalize with number 16 because I have questions about number 16. Okay, and I forgot which one. But first, let us get going. Number 15, I'm moving you backward. It means I'm going from here to here. That's really what number 16 is about. So if I put 1 over x cubed is x to the r. What is r? So 1 over x cubed is x to which power? So my goal now is to be able to move backward, forward. Exactly, r is minus 3. That's really what it is. Okay, I'll do one more and then I pick up the one you guys asked. I don't know which one. B is not something I gave you, but I think it's easy. So I told you, okay, x7 over x to the power 2. It's x to the power r. What is r? I'm sure you've seen this in high school or middle school. I don't know when you see this stuff, but let's see what should be r, you think? Think about the meaning and then give me the answer. So I know which one. Oh, you guys asked H. What is R? Anybody? Okay. If you're struggling, it's not hard. What is x7 over x squared? x7, it means x times x times x times x times x 7 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you divide it by x times x. So how many x's are left if you do that? How many x's are left? 5. Because simplify, we're left with 5 x's. So here r is equal to 5. Okay, so basically it's 7 minus 2. So it's basically 7 minus 2. Right, so which one it is? Okay, 2 more and then we're done. Cubic root of x. And I know you guys are asking about h. I will not. It's x to the r. What is r? You have the cubic root. What is r? R is 1/3. Absolutely correct. All right, so h and the rest, it will be up to you to look them up. H is the cubic root of x5 over y squared. All right, and here I put x to the r, y to the s. So let's see how we can simplify. Well, we can simplify it like this. First, to make it easy for us, this is x cubed over divided by the cubic root of y squared. Okay. Now, cubic root of x to the 5 is x to which power? Back to you. Watch carefully. It's the cubic root of x5 is x to which power?
5/3.
5/3. That's the power and that's the root. Cubic root of y squared is y. Denominator is the root to the power 3. Okay. Finally, this is probably a little bit harder, but I don't think it is. This basically is x to the power 5/3. I'm not changing, times 1 over that. Because those are two fractions. This times 1 and this times 1. So finally, you get x to the 5/3, 1 over y. This is y to the minus 2/3. So here, my r is 5/3. My s is minus 2/3. So if you can get this one, we are in a good shape. All right. Any other questions? All right. I know that there is one question I didn't do. I think I answered all your questions except number 5.2. The student who asked this question can stay with me and I will be glad to go over it with her. Otherwise, the class is dismissed. But before you guys go, remember the exams start at 12:15. I want your camera on. If you have any question, you guys, my office hours, I have office hours today, so you can show up during my office hours. All right, the best of luck. Okay, which student asked about 2? Is she still around or is he around?
Yeah, it was me.
Okay, can you stay with me for 2 more minutes?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, let's do that.
Dr. Elias, I have a, can I talk to you when you're done with Amber?
Yeah, of course you can.
Okay, thanks.
Number 2. So here we have the following function. F of x equal 2x when x is negative. Dx minus 5 when x is between 0 and 3. I'm just writing it down. And 4 when x is bigger or equal to 3. Okay? And you are comfortable with part A, Amber?
Yeah.
You checked the answers, right? Also.
Yes, I did.
Very good. Now the graph. How is the graph? This function is defined piece by piece. So there is not a one formula for the whole function. So how are we going to graph it? Like this. Output here is 2x when x is negative. So suppose I take the following problem. I tell you, okay, let f of x equal to x, or let me change it. H of x equal to x. Forget about my problem a little bit, all right? And I ask you graph this function. Okay. This is a typical linear because it has the form mx plus b. So if I want to graph it, I know that the graph is a line. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. How can I graph this line? Okay, I need 2 points. So I take, if x is 0, y is 0, that's a point. And I need another point. So if x is 1, or x is minus 1, this minus 2. And then it keeps going, right? That's the graph of this piece.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now, here, f is equal to x, but only up to 0. It means you're going to graph this function, and you're going to stop at 0, because that's the output. Up to here, you stop. So you graph f of x equal to x, and you stop at x equal to 0. Okay, so how are we going to do it right here? So I say, okay, up to 0, if this is x, the output is 2x. So I'm going to graph the line to x, but I only want to graph it up to 0 and stop absolutely there. So how can I graph 2x? Like I did here. I take 2 points and graph it. Okay, I take, so this is x and this is 2x, 0, 0. But now I say, since I need to stop at 0, it's nice to know what happened at -1 because I need to stop here. At -1, this is -2. So now I graph it. At 0, it's 0. X is -1, this is -2. So that's the graph. So this is the graph of 2x, but I stop right there. I don't go any further. So this piece is that piece. Because the rules stop here. It doesn't go any further. Amber,
Yes.
are you with me?
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, between 0 and 3. That's why we're having your faces help a lot. All right, between 0 and 3, what's the output? X is the input. The output is given by 3x minus 5. So now what I have to sketch is the graph of 3x minus 5, but I only want to restrict it between 0 and 3. Again, I do the same thing, 0 and 3 not included. I said, okay, I'm going to graph the line 3x minus 5, but I'm just going to take it between 0 and 3. I don't want to take it anywhere beyond that. So how can I sketch 3x minus 5? This is a line. I need 2 points. Which point shall I take? -1 is nonsense because I want my graph between 0 and 3. So I take values between 0 and 3 to help me out. So I can
0.
take 0, give me -5, right?
Mm-hmm.
And 3, those are the best value, honestly. 3 times 3, it's a 9, just give me a 4. Okay, so that's my line, and then we're going to do something. So at 0, this -5 is here. At 3, it is a 4. Now, if you have a grade, you can actually, this is a 4. So the line is basically this line. Totally restricted between 0 and 3. Now, because 0 and 3 are not included in my original function, I'm going to open my circle here and open my circle here. You see what I did?
Yeah.
Okay, now, after 3, what's the output?
After 3?
Yeah, for x bigger than 3.
Oh, it's 4.
It's 4. It means it's constant. No matter what x is, it's 4. So how's the graph going to look after that?
Isn't it just a straight line?
Exactly. At 3, I have to close now because at 3 is 4, and this is 4 here. It's going to be just, honest to goodness, straight line.
Okay, that
There's
makes
3
more
pieces. Okay. So now if I take any x here, for example, if I take x here between 0 and 3, this point here will follow the rule 3x minus 5. It means if I take an x here, let's say 2, this point should be 2, and this is the formula. 3 times 2, 6 minus 5, which is going to be 1. If I take a point right here, I want to see the point on this graph, it follows the first formula. This is -1, -2. So the output depends on where my point is, and this is how it's changing. Okay, now the domain and the range. The domain here, the way we defined it, is all numbers, because no matter what x is, you can find the f of x. If x is negative, I know what it is. If x between 0 and 3, x bigger than 3. So the domain is going to be all real numbers. Okay. Now what's the range?
Is it -5 to 4?
it's up to 4, you're right with that, but it's not -5 because this line keep going.
Oh, so negative infinity to 4.
Right. Negative.
So for the domain, you said it's all real numbers, correct?
Yes. Because if I give you any number, can you give me the output? Suppose I give you f of -100. What do you think the output is going to be?
Wouldn't you use the 2x?
Right, so it's going to be -200, right?
Okay.
If I give you f of 1,000,000, can you tell me what's the output is?
A negative 2
No,
million.
f of 1,000,000. Be careful.
Oh, 1,000,000. 4.
Exactly. So my point is that no matter which x I give you, this formula will allow you to find f of x. There is no issue with evaluating